Lackeys and Dice Fiends, welcome back. It is the first Chaotic Wholesome stream of the new year. Y'all, I don't exactly know how this is gonna go. I have done everything I can to balance audio, and I know the alerts are not working. Someone, as I was telling our dear co-host, someone did a brilliant thing right before David went into the hospital and accidentally deleted their entire folder of all of the stuff that I need. Hey, DC, welcome on in.
It wasn't your fault. You meant well.
It was all my fault. And then the good news was we had everything backed up, but it's all backed up on David's computer. And for those of you who don't know, our usual co-host, David, is in the hospital. So I'm not going to get all those things back for a little bit. So the stream might be a little bit wonky. Thank you for sticking with me. Regardless, I hope y'all can't hear that very loud car outside. Excellent.
I can't.
I love this microphone. So yes, hello. For those of you hanging out with us, we appreciate y'all being here. I'm Kay. I am the founder of this channel, along with David, who is not here. We talk all things TTRPGs, from indies to intersectionality on this show. Oh dear, I hope it is still going. Okay, it is still behaving. I am here. I don't have much to promote right now. Emergency Power podcast season 4 will be coming out soon. But right now, this is what I have going on. But I have an incredible co-host stepping up to the plate and helping us out. So Candace, who the heck is you and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I'm Candace. I am the co-host. I will be stepping in and filling 1/8 of David's impressive rant shoes as temporary co-host of Chaotic Wholesome. My pronouns are they, she. I am a TTRPG performer. I am an actor and a writer. You can hear more of my work in a bunch of different places, including this channel sometimes. But currently, I would like to direct your eyes to Frequencies, which is a Kids on Bikes podcast.
Hey, Jason.
To Bloom and Blight, which is a Girl by Moonlight podcast, as well as City of the Black Rose, Herald of Shadows, which is a D&D podcast. If you like Arcane, that last one's for you.
Yes, thank you so much. Candace, thank you all, everyone, for hanging out with us here today. Again, I apologize that the messages and the greetings are going through, but all the pretty fancy pop-ups are just not happening right now. I hope the redeems are working. I don't know. I think we'll find out. We're doing it live, y'all. So,
hell yeah.
Today, we wanted to talk about, I can't hear the music. I don't know if y'all can. Hey, that's working. Okay. That might need to come down. Streamerbot, get a little bit more quiet, please. Thank you for testing that, Candace. Yes, it works. So, we could talk a lot about 2024. I kind of don't want to. Like, we got to do some cool stuff. Like, we got to play some cool games.
That's true.
I got to play a creepy kobold with your wonderful statuesque bard.
Oh yeah,
that was
my stone top.
And my weird little guy.
Oh, we got to get back to that. We got to get back to that. We need season 2 so bad.
We got to produce an incredible game, which Candace performed in, Body and Soul, which is an all-black American gods going through time in America. It was incredible and moving. I know we did more, but y'all, did we do Ponies last year, or was that the year before? I've lost track.
Ponies is the year before.
I
can't even believe that. We did Candace the Magnificent Pride.
Yes.
That was awesome.
It's amazing.
And some Mothership as well at some point.
Mothership.
And then a fantastic year of, like, you guys had amazing guests this year. Like, y'all fucking murdered it with your guests.
And unfortunately, as I said, my co-host is my co-founder is out of commission, so we didn't get to do our usual Christmas charity game, which is very, very sad. But hopefully soon and more. But and you did so much. We don't even have time to go over all that you did, Candace.
Oh, I did a lot of continuing things and some new things. Yes,
You did all
that's
of the
true.
things. Like, if there
I
was a
tried.
thing, you did it.
I was ready to die, but yes, I did all of the things.
It was impressive.
Thank
Um,
you.
but we kind of wanted to spend today, y'all, talking about New Year, new games, right?
Hmm.
So, what is coming out that you're excited for? What have you never played before that you're excited to play? Um, what is something it doesn't have to be new. It can absolutely be new to you. Be that from systems to genres to whatever. And chat, please feel free. As always, shout out what you think, what you feel, because we want to hear it. But Candace, I know you've got opinions.
I do. So a game that I don't know enough about, but I know enough about it to be absolutely bananas for it, is Jukebox.
Ooh.
I am dying to play Jukebox. I saw an opportunity for people to write a one shot for it, and
Mhm.
I can't remember. I feel like I did apply, but I don't think obviously I was not one of the people chosen, which is cool. But like really good people were chosen. And it's a TTRPG that's like karaoke based. I don't know if you actually are supposed to sing during this or if it's just about singing. Like I
Uh-huh.
don't know. But either way, it seems both devastating and awesome. So I need to get my hands on that as soon as possible. I'm dreaming of it. I need it.
Sounds like we might need to invite some people on the show.
I mean, honestly, I really, I'm dying for it. Um, I feel like there's so many opportunities to do interesting things with TTRPGs as a medium. And a lot of people out there are really pushing the boundaries of what it is to play a game, right?
Hmm.
From what we saw with Wanderhome, where there's no dice and there's no rolls and there's no like system of accountability, really. There's like a ticket system, kind of, but
Hmm.
nothing else. Um, to a game that I actually just recently started playing, Under the Autumn Strangely, which is like a campfire style game where you just kind of talk and make up a story. Um, there's a lot of innovation happening, but like a karaoke TTRPG, like that's
Right.
so.
That's
I just need
interesting.
I need to know how you do it. You know.
Yeah. Hey, Krysicon, welcome in. Um,
Hello.
and okay, hydrating. Thank you.
Mm.
So yes, we're talking about games that we want to play in 2025, be it new or new to you. Now, look, if you've watched the show, if you've been in my Discord, you are very aware that I love D20 systems. I just do. It's a problem. It's my crack. Sorry, right? Sorry, not sorry. I am really now. I'm extra in my feels about this because, as I told Candace in the green room, last night we recorded the last episode of the Emergency Power Podcast. That is our Starfinder game. Oh, I'm glad you're off work. Happy evening. And I really look. I love the Emergency Power crew. I loved that game. I loved those people. I loved those characters. Starfinder itself. But I am really excited to play. I would really love to play a good Starfinder 2 campaign because
Hmm.
3-action economy is so fun. Oh, like I haven't gotten to play enough of it, but the idea that like you have 3 actions and anything that you want to do, you can move 3 times, you can attack 3 times, you can cast a spell and move, you can just cast like there aren't spell levels. It's how many moves, how many turns do you take? How many moves do you take to cast that?
Mm-hmm.
So I've said this before, the one shot that I got to play in Pathfinder 1E or Pathfinder 2E, which is 3-action economy, it was like I was the cleric and it was I could touch spell for 1 action and heal 1d8 plus whatever. For 2 actions, I could heal from a distance. It was 1d8 plus more. For 3 actions, I could AoE heal.
Ooh,
So it was like you didn't have to stack all these
worth
different
it.
spells. Your spell just worked in a different way if you could position yourself correctly to get to that 3-action thing. So
Yeah, that's smart. I love that.
I love those I love being able to be a little bit strategic and show
Mm-hmm.
how clever a character is. Uh,
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanna do that, but in space again.
Yeah, that sounds fucking awesome. I know that we have a little something that has not yet technically been announced yet that takes place with Starfinder rules, but that's not really space.
I
It's
mean,
not
it
really what you're looking
it
for.
might it might be eventually. Let's see.
That's true.
Um, I'm gonna do the obnoxious streamer thing and say, chat, can you hear the background music? Is it too loud? Because I could hear it before, but now I can't. But the bars are bouncing, so I don't know. I could hear it a little bit now. It might just have been really quiet. Um, so yeah, what else you got, Candace? What else are you looking forward to?
So, like, I just actually got out of a session 0 for a game of Triangle Agency,
Oh, I've
and like
heard a lot about that.
I've heard a lot. Like people have been talking about it to death, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love Delta Green. Very big fan of Delta Green and like the weirdness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Call of Cthulhu is awesome, especially the 1920s based Call of Cthulhu. That is absolutely my jam. But I also love the X-Files nature of Delta Green, right? That you don't really
Mm-hmm.
get in Call of Cthulhu. So what's awesome about Triangle Agency, so the game right now that I'm playing in, I am actually using a pre-generated character.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about like your arc. This is dealing with anomalies. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like what anomaly has attached itself to you, who your mundane archetype is, and then what your
Mm-hmm.
job, like what your mundane job is essentially
Mm-hmm.
outside of the agency. And depending on what anomaly has attached itself to you, that tells you what kind of powers you have.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on what you choose to do as like your day-to-day job and position and your temperament, that like all of those things together make a complete character that has a certain like directive,
That's
prime
really
directive.
cool. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Like I'm very kind of intrigued by the ability that you have in the game to also pick up other anomalies.
Mm-hmm.
Like you start with one, I'm pretty sure, or if you don't start with one, it's easy to pick one up to kind
Mm-hmm.
of have that guide your character. But like
Uh-huh.
even for a pre-gen, I'm pretty sure that like I can use other anomaly types. I don't know if it's in addition to,
Mm-hmm.
or if it is in like instead of.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still learning about it, but it seems so interesting.
Yeah.
The design is really slick inside. It looks really good.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
So welcome, Matt. I
Hi,
have
Matt.
first stream of the year. Things are a little quirky, so please forgive that. Though I may be able to fix at least one of these things. We'll find out. I'm not sure.
Matt's coming back from vacation mode. He's not going to notice if your bots are weird.
Just, I don't know how many folks are lurking or like, because as the minute I don't say it, someone's
Of
gonna go,
course.
"Did you know your thing isn't working?" Which that is not like that is very great. That is very helpful most of the time, except when you're like, I can't make this behave. It's just it is not working today.
I want to tell
Um,
you though, your setup, you've done a fantastic job after the move. Yeah,
Thanks.
it looks great. It's killer. It's even better than the last one, arguably.
I mean, it's mostly all the same, except now I have these really cool blacked out windows, so everything kind
Yeah,
of reflects. Like if I move, you can see my screens, which
that's
is
what
a
I'm
little
saying. Like
awkward.
it like adds some depth back there. It's good.
But yes, yes, I hope Matt has been still on vac. Wow, Matt is tuning in
See?
from the boat.
Thank you, Matt.
Aruba, amazing. Yes, thank
International
you.
waters. Thank you.
Look at that. Look at that. Um, but yeah, and then this is another. Well, okay, actually, before I go to that, when I want to play, and I've kind of been hassling Piper about this probably for years at this point, but
Hmm.
my only like not on hiatus long-term game right now is it's a home game. It used to be streamed. It's now the home game where I play my sweet little Burton
Hmm.
in the Modifius system, which I'm not gonna lie, it took me a while to get used to, but it is a D20 based system. It's 2d20 roll under.
Okay.
So that took some adjustments. But that system really allows you to do cool stuff with characters, and your character can really grow in interesting ways as they
Hmm.
progress. So like Burton kind of started out, hey Ribbonanza, welcome in. Burton was supposed to be like the team healer, kind of like a support character with like could heal, could do some like crowd control stuff, and then like could assist other characters, right? Could
Mm-hmm.
just spend their turn or their reaction helping in really interesting mechanical ways. And they were a little bit of an off tank. Like I made them so they could at least take a hit,
Mm-hmm.
um, which was cool because they could take a hit while having no athletics.
Oh my god.
Like they have no brawn. They just
Uh-huh.
like they're skinny as a rail. Now they are Team Tank. They are literally the most durable character in the thing. Still this
What a
big
guy.
around. Still no brawn.
Perfect.
But like can now just like, oh, you're doing an attack that's ranged, you get an automatic success is my reaction.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah. Like you have to use things certain ways, and I have
Yeah.
a lot of different reactions, so it really forces me to be strategic about what am I going to do with this, right?
That's so cool.
It's so really cool. Like I didn't so this character is team tank, team healer, crowd control, leadership support, and a necromancer.
Oh, that's a really sexy combination, though.
And all of it, like mechanically and in a character way, makes sense.
Well, I mean, to me, in my mind, it makes sense that they would stack. Like, if I had stats, I would absolutely make sure that my healer had A, life and death magic, and B, was the tank. Because, like, the tank needs to always... That's the only person you really need the whole time in your game, is your
Yeah.
defense. Yeah.
And like they have a system where you have because it's we're using the Acton Cthulhu, so it's a Call of Cthulhu inspired.
Yeah.
It's heavily modified for this home game, but like there is
Okay.
both physical and mental. Like you don't have health points, you have stress, and if
Nice,
you
okay.
take 5 stress or fill all of your stress, you take an injury.
Mm.
And you can be hit with either, and it's all the same stress track, but you can be hit with either physical or mental damage.
Okay.
Because my character is a spellcaster, I was able to take this feat, which allows me to use my magic stat as my courage, which courage cuts into, reduces the mental damage that you take and the mental
Right.
damage you take when you're casting because magic has cost.
Oh, I love that.
It's real cool.
Yeah.
And then they kind of accidentally had an encounter with a god, and their magic stat was just maxed. And then because of their background, they got beat up a lot as a kid. So they have just a lot of like fortitude that they're able to stack. So like unless an attack has piercing, which is a specific thing, they just ignore the first 5 mental, 4 physical damage of any attack. Just it has to do more than that to hurt them. And they're
I love
just
that because that's like the perfect symbol of like the actual magical strength of your character. Because
Exactly.
you have that fortitude, you can shut your mind. Like I like that that like mechanical representation.
So yeah, it's very funny because
Woo.
this 6'3", this big around, like drawled hick is out there with shaggy blonde hair, freckles, and a shotgun, standing in front of everyone. Hardly uses the shotgun. Is just like, oh, you're shooting, you succeed. Oh, you're doing that, yeah. Oh, you're casting a spell, counter spell. Like, just no. None of this happens
Shut
on my
it
watch.
down.
So the more I've played in that system, the more I've actually come to enjoy it, especially because, humble brag, our GM actually writes the systems and is like, here's all the things I've ripped out of the system to make it more fun to play, like a more flowing style.
Heck yeah.
So I really want to play us the Star Trek game because Modifius has the Star Trek game.
So I know that Piper is waiting for their job clouds to clear,
That's fair.
and then they absolutely have ideas for a Star Trek game.
Because
I've been lurking them for some time, as you can
because
imagine.
like I have the thing with the
Ooh.
fancies. I have the D20s with the communicator symbol.
Those are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're getting some Star Trek gaming in 2025. That is coming. It's coming for us.
Actually, one of the first things I bonded with Brian Urban with was we were talking about Spelljammers was coming out. I was like, I would love to play like a Deep Space Nine inspired Spelljammers thing. And I'm
Oh,
like, I would love to play like a Bashir inspired character
yes.
who's um, like everyone thinks they're a cleric, but they're like a soul sorcerer, a divine sorcerer, right? And they're like trying to hide the fact that they're not keeping up the family. They like that.
Hmm.
And Brian was like, oh, because I could play Garroth. I'm like, that was one of our first bonding moments was like, oh, I'm game if you're game. It never happened, but like, it's a fun
Yeah, I
little
know,
memory.
but it needs to though, you
It
know.
really does.
It
Like, there's
needs
no
to.
question.
Yeah,
Um,
there is a large percentage of a chance that that will happen in 2025 for us. Piper is into it. I am very into it. You are extremely into it, and I feel like Brian would be into it. I feel like we could try to seduce Herb with
like
a
we
Star
could.
Trek game,
Yeah.
especially because Herb likes Piper. So we can seduce. We can work on them.
I mean, I think Brian, there are a few things Brian would not do for Star Trek.
Right? Right? As it should be.
Though he's absolutely going to shame me because while I have watched a lot of Trek, my knowledge is like, I did find out my mother has Paramount Plus though, so I might be able to just
Oh, so you can watch
binge
all the
all
stuff.
of them. I need to.
Yeah.
I am so behind y'all. I have not seen anything. I haven't seen Picard or anything after.
Okay.
Anything.
Yeah. So nothing. None of the
So-
new stuff.
The last one I watched, actually, it might have even been before. The last one I watched, I recognize this is a dangerous thing to say. This is a very dangerous thing for me to say. But everyone I know gets it right. I can never remember the name of the last series I saw, but it was the bad Star Trek with the really bad intro song that had lyrics.
Yeah. That's Star
It's not-
Trek Enterprise?
Enterprise, or is it? It's not Discovery. It's
The one with Bakula, right?
the only one I remember is Trip, because Trip was a strong influence for Burton. It was Enterprise. Thank you.
Enterprise.
Yes, it's the worst intro. I am the person I sit through intros. I always watch the intros. Always. I lied. I did see the animated one.
Lower
Prodigy.
Decks.
No,
Prodigy. So cute.
It's so cute. I
Very
got kind
cute.
of cranky in season 1 where I'm like, so that's what they're gonna do to Gwen, huh? They're not gonna let her. And then season 2, I'm like, okay, now I'm happy. But no, Trip for like, we talk a lot on this show about it's okay for you to dislike things, and disliking something doesn't mean it's bad. I did straight out say this is the bad one, but I think we can all agree it's not the best.
No.
But even so, I spend a lot of time saying like, try to think about why you don't like something, because there are things where I'm like, I don't like it, and that's a me thing. But there are things where you're like, I don't like this because it doesn't jive with my, or it challenges my sense of reality in a way that is harmful, right? Like there are things where it's like, I don't like this because I'm just not the target audience, right?
Yeah.
There were many things I didn't enjoy about that, but I loved Trip. I loved this little corn-fed boy going, I want to go to space. Go to space, you have to learn math, you have to learn rocket science. Cool, I learned rocket science. Can I go to space? Like, that was a big influence of Burton, of just this person of like, I want to do this thing. Okay, I'm going to do it. Because while they have a bunch of magic now, their original concept was an artificer who couldn't do magic, but could only infuse magic into things.
Aw. What a growth story arc, though.
And now they're also a necromancer, and that's a whole. But yes, spend time
I'm not
thinking
going to
about.
ask any. That's his business. I'm not going to ask him questions about his business. He should just handle it, and no one should be looking at him any type of way. He can be a necromancer if he wants.
It's extra fun because in this system, necromancy is just the control of bodies. They don't have to be dead.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, that's badass.
It's very.
You need
spicy.
to play the system. Like you're killing me right now with this. Now I have an obsession. I have a random Achtung Cthulhu supplement
Oh,
Just like a
yeah.
random one that was submitted for the Ennies that I just had in my collection. And I'm like, I'm never gonna use this. So I listed on eBay, but now I'm like, maybe you should look at it. Maybe you
Uh,
should consider it.
it might be extra backgrounds or even extra backgrounds. Um,
Mm.
but no, I need to introduce you to Ben because you would die in Ben's game. Ben's games are so juicy. Like literally next session, if anyone from the home game is watching this before tomorrow, don't walk away right now. They're all in England, so they should be asleep. But basically, the next session is going to be either the two wardens, the two law people, and the rest
Mhm.
of the group are going to commit treason and steal a relic of the god,
Oh no.
or we're going to betray half the party
Oh no.
and
Oh,
hang
so
them out to dry.
juicy.
And just to be clear, this is a group where you can do that. This game had an 8-month hiatus. We came back to play again after 8 months off. The first session back, 2 player characters died,
Oh my.
both killed by other player characters. And the people who had to be consoled were the ones who did the killing.
I mean, of course.
The people whose characters dies were like, "You're killing me, you little fuck." No, you would thrive in this group, Candace. You would have so much fun. Have
Oh my
so much
goodness.
fun.
I feel like those systems don't get like enough praise. Like I very rarely see people running 2d20. Like very rarely. I mean, unless it's like the year 0 2d20 thing, which I don't know if you like that or not. The Lord of the Rings, the system for the One Ring.
Yeah.
Is that similar?
It's similar-ish. They
Okay.
also have so I'm spoiled because I think so there's the DD20 and then there's the 2D12, right?
Yeah.
So I've actually only played the 2D12
Oh, they're
version of that.
2d12. Got it.
But no,
Okay.
there's a couple. There's a couple. I know there is a D20 version. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 D20 because I've only played the 12. And I only
Okay.
remember that because in that 11 is the crit fail because the 2 towers is the 11.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Also, I have very special Burton shotgun
Those are so
shell dice.
fucking cool.
I love them. They say 20.
They have like a sparkly like inlay, right? Like the numbers.
No, they're just
Oh my gosh, they're gunmetal, even cooler.
Yeah, I specifically got copper because
Mhm.
like Burton's dice are all kind of cowboy flavored.
I love that. Make the perfect dice palette.
I have that, and then of course I don't have. And then I have my secret necromancer dice because you can't tell me these aren't necromancer dice.
No, that's a fucking bomb ass geo die, and I love it.
There's like still 2 or 3 characters in the party who don't know that Burton's a necromancer, so that's fun.
It's none of their business.
It's gonna be their business when I tell them, drop your weapon.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
It'll be fun.
It's funny, like, so you're playing that as your home game. I am eventually starting a home game of City of Mists.
Ooh.
That Piper is running. So City of Mist is a game that I have been kind of like dancing around for some time. I have heard a lot about it, but no one really ever runs it. I had applied for a City of Mist game that somebody was running in the community and ended up unfortunately not getting cast. But then Piper was like, you know what? Let's go on hiatus with Strahd because we had a few people get like overwhelmed with life stuff. And it was just me, Piper, and Kaz, the mini Arcanist, who were going to be doing the game together. Yeah, so Piper's like, I'm just running City of Mist for you guys. So, like, if you have not checked out City of Mist, they have like an archetype-based character creation because you are playing like a fantasy character, essentially like the embodiment of a fantasy character that has a mundane existence that they don't know about in the beginning, and that's like part of your character journey is to uncover these ideals and these concepts. I don't really know what to expect from gameplay. I love learning new systems, but sometimes learning new systems frustrates the hell out of me, and I get really upset. I am in a Girl by Moonlight podcast. I have mixed feelings about the actual run of the system. It is challenging for me because I roll like garbage. So that game is punishing if you roll like garbage.
That was part of my problem with, I did a Girl by Moonlight too. But the thing, so the challenge for me with Girl by Moonlight is like when I play Pathfinder, D&D, even Modifius systems,
Mm-hmm.
rules are a certain way, and I can work within the rules, the stuff that I have. Girl by Moonlight, you have to think not as your character, but like as the person outside of your character. Like you really
Right.
have to think about the overall game and the overall mechanics, not just what does my character want to do. Like you,
Yes.
even if you do what your character has to do, you have to figure out how to do it in a way that the game will help you, or else you are boned.
Yeah. And it
Um,
feels really difficult too, like if you are coming from Powered by the Apocalypse, because you're like, oh, this is going to be about the same, right? You're still rolling D6s. You're still there's a playbook, and it's like there is, but there isn't though.
Yeah.
Like, the playbook
Yeah.
is 1,000 times more specific somehow, right?
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I eventually found my flow with my character. Like I want to
Mhm.
say by season 2 I understood what I was doing, but
Mhm.
like that system, Forged in the Dark, sometimes can just be so alienating to me. I played a Blades in the Dark game that felt a little bit more natural and a little bit more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
But I just found out that there's a game called Slug Blaster that I was like really into, and like I had looked over the rule set when I was an Ennies judge, but that was like 2 years ago, right? I haven't picked this book up in forever, and
Mhm.
that was when I had started this Girl by Moonlight podcast.
Yeah.
So I pick it up the other day because I'm like, oh, I really want to run this for like Black History Month. There's someone asked me for like a punk theme, and I was like,
Yeah.
Slug Blaster would be really good. I've been dying to play that game. I've been, it's been on my shelf for about a year and a half now. It's called Kickflip Over a Quantum Centipede, and the core like themes, I guess, that they pull from is like Tony Hawk Pro Skate, like 90s and very early 2000s video games and like arcade culture.
Yeah.
Vans, right?
Mhm.
Like the label, like the company,
Yeah.
the company. So they have like this very specific time and place that they're trying to evoke, which is cool, but it's Forged in the Dark rules. And I'm like, okay, how is this going to play out? So now I've got that's another game that I'm kind of like, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to see what there
Yeah.
is to see there, because
I-
it looks really cool.
I feel like I'm going to say two things about Forged in the Dark. The first
Mm.
is I think for me, it's great as a one shot
Mhm.
because the focus of Forged in the Dark is not your character, it's the team, the base,
Right.
the legend that you build. And I'm like, well, that's cool. Like the Modifius game is highly lethal. Like I said,
Mhm.
2-player characters dead in one session.
Oh my God.
And like, so we all have a backup character, and we all know that might happen, but you're also like, in a Forged in the Dark, you kind of have to expect to get rid of this character, right? Like, that's just kind of how it is. And that's difficult for me to do long term.
Mhm.
But 2, Forged in the Dark, it is exactly what it is, right? It is a very brutal system. And I have no problem with brutal systems. But the whiplash between the brutality of the system and the magical girl thing was
Mm.
a little, there was some,
It's
some
hard.
dissonance for me. Yeah.
Agree.
Because like we'd run in and we were like, okay, we're going to do this thing. And we do like this big flashy thing. And the GM's like, okay. And you just murdered 3 people. And it's like, could I have done that not murderously? Like,
That's another one of those systems that really heavily relies on what kind of GM you have.
yeah.
And I feel like that to me is the mark of a game that has more of like an indie
Mhm.
appeal rather than something that feels like a more solid publication. Like Savage Worlds can be boring, just like D&D can be boring, just like Pathfinder can be boring, right? All of those like big systems. I feel like Modifius is, 2D20 is probably the same way. If you get the wrong DM, it will be boring, right? It'll still make sense and you'll still be able to play. It'll just
Mhm.
not be the best time, right? It's all about the skill of the DM. But I feel
Yeah.
like some of these systems, like even what happens to you, how the actual game is played depends on your GM, right? Like
Yeah.
masks, good
Oh, yeah.
luck, right?
Yeah.
Good luck for masks. If you have somebody that's like, rules is written, nope, like you're kind of boned. I've
Yeah.
been boned like that in Dungeons and Dragons, but even then the rules are so like A, clear, and B, intricate, that you can point to certain things and say, well, this, so
Yeah.
why can't I, right? You
Yeah.
can make arguments, but like in a game where it's like mostly down to vibes, if there is a mechanic that requires success, like a dice roll, like
Yeah.
I'm hitting a 3 on just trying to help an old lady cross the street. What happens to her? She get hit by a Mack truck, right?
Right.
Like it's gonna come
Yeah.
down to your DM.
Exactly. Yeah, like, and even
Ugh.
in D&D, like, I'm such a big fan of, like, okay, do the perception check, or do the investigation check as you're trying to find whatever you're looking for. A low
Mhm.
roll doesn't mean you don't find it. It just means it takes you more time. Your
Right.
character's more frustrated. Like, let players have some fun. Like, don't lock the important thing behind a dice roll
Mhm.
because they will fail it
Yeah.
inevitably. And don't
Yeah.
make something, if something is impossible, don't let people roll because there's a 99 DC. Some people in this channel right now watched it happen live. In Baldur's Gate, there is a dice roll with a 99 DC. And your friend Nat 20'd it.
Oh shit. Yeah.
And I'm like
Don't
looking
let
at chat.
Kay game your system, guys.
Like, K will either break your system or will be broken by your system. It just depends on how the dice are treating me that day.
That's true.
Like Purcell had days where they stabbed maybe one person in an entire episode long fight because the dice just said no.
Yeah. Yeah, I just recorded the finale to Herald of Shadows, the
Mhm.
3BH podcast, and I rolled a natural 1 for initiative. Like a natural 1, and I had +0. So it wasn't even like I could argue. I was like, "Can I use magical guidance?" The DM was like, "What? No." Of course not. I was like, "Listen, you can't get weird with me because I'm trying. All right? I
Yes.
can try.
Yes.
If I didn't try, then someone would have been like, "Why didn't you ask?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
I gotta ask. Respect that the answer is no.
If it
But I was last the whole game. And goddamn, if there is anything in this world that reminds me of like the biggest bone I have to pick with D&D as a system is rolling a nat 1 for initiative. Like just round after round of being like, ooh, ooh. Just round after round of that. Savage Worlds, it's like draw a new card.
yeah.
You're first this round, right? It's great. But no. Natural 1 on initiative? Fury.
If it makes you feel any better, in season 2 or season 3, one of those of EPP, Soul, whose entire job is to stab things. That's all they do is stab things, right? I go to stab a thing, I roll a natural 1.
No.
Now, here's what you need to know about Soul's class is Solarian. They have a mote of light that just orbits their head. They grab it, it turns into a sword. They cannot be disarmed. If they let go of the sword, it goes back to being a mote and they just draw it again, right? This is you cannot disarm me, GM. I have a magical unbreakable sword. We play with consequence cards because that's really fun. So if you roll a nat 1 or a nat 20, you roll to confirm. And if you rolled a nat 1 and you miss again, or if you rolled a nat 20 and you succeed again, they will pull a card and whatever effect that is will come into effect. And it can absolutely turn the tide of a battle. I rolled a nat 1. They pull the consequence, or they go to roll to confirm. I roll another nat 1.
No.
And Adam is like, I think I have to break your unbreakable sword. I think your sword is corrupted. And I'm like, yeah, I rolled 2 nat 1s on this one thing. Like, yeah. And like gave me a path out of it. And like, I got to do some cool things not with the thing. We got to the end and Adam's like, thank you for going with it. I'm like, no, I rolled 2 nat 1s. Like, come on. Come on.
That's
I
awesome,
failed
though.
so
I
hard.
love how those dice tell a story.
The
But
dice were like,
stress.
not
Stress,
today.
though.
Right? Oh,
Stress.
I kept that game. I ran because Soul had an ability where they could just ignore a nat 1. They'd get a nat 1, they could just reroll it. Done. Not a lot of rerolls in Starfinder, so that was huge. Then I went to bust through a plate glass window to save a squishy teammate who was in that room alone with several opponents. Bust through it beautifully, do an acrobatics check to not land on my face, nat 1 it.
No. Skid to a halt on your face.
They're in disguise in a mini skirt too, so they are ass up, cheeks out on the floor. Just like, Pudge, I came to rescue you. And then I rolled 2 more nat ones in that same room, in that same fight. It was incredible.
No.
It was great. It's like, Soul's having a bad day. Soul's having a bad day. And that's the thing.
I love that when it's other people.
Here's the thing, like, that was kind of fun. Like, there are times when I hate failing, and there are times when I love failing. And, you know, when it's like, it is a ridiculous thing and I get to have fun with this, I love failing. But there's times when it's like, please just let me do the thing I'm good at. Like, and I was talking with this, I got to spend my New Year's with Painting Pirate, and we were talking about Painting Pirate's like, I love failing. And I'm like, I love failing until I have done nothing but fail for 3 episodes in a row.
Yes, that.
That's when it sucks.
That.
Or worse, when you have a GM who doesn't understand that, like, okay, if I am attempting something that I have no business attempting and I roll badly,
oh, sure,
yeah,
fuck me.
it's my fault, right?
Yeah,
but like,
absolutely.
I am a warrior trained from birth and I'm missing.
Yeah, no.
Make the
you
enemy...
have to adapt that.
Like, it's not me just sucking, right? Let the enemy, like, if there's nothing worse than a GM who's all like, oh yeah, you just whiff it, wow. And it's like,
honestly,
or at least let me make it funny.
Yeah. I'm a very big fan of asking my players what happens to them. Like when they fail, instead of me being like, this horrible thing happens to you, ha, right? I'm like, I mean, this sounds pretty funny. This is what I think happens to you, but you go ahead and tell me what you think. Like, what do you want to have happened to you, right? And I feel like a lot of GMs just have this story in their head. So they're like, I have to navigate through to this next bullet point, right? Which that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I very much prefer DMs like that that'll have you in on it.
Yeah. You've heard me say it, the best thing you can do as a GM is know when to shut up and let your players do the thing, right? Don't interrupt the really heartfelt scene. Let it play out and then throw in, right as that beautiful scene is ending, then throw in the terrible thing, but don't interrupt the deep conversation where the characters are bonding with your upping the ante, because we need this moment to keep on being good characters. Also, as you know, because you have seen more than once, Candace, no one will do something more mean to my characters than me.
That's true.
I will make everything worse for myself, and if you let me, the others around me. You write. DC says you write in a bullet journal. Don't make your game one.
Oh, that.
Beautiful.
DC, you're really speaking to my soul. I used to have a GM that was like, that would come with a story in her mind. Like she would be like, this is the story that I'm making in my mind. And then I'm going to cast people and they're going to make whatever characters they want. And that's fine. But I still have this story in my mind. And that's what I'm telling. And then people would come to the table and we would be like, okay, here we are. And then it was just her story. And for a while it was okay because the things that were happening to, like, especially for me, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but the general consensus was the things that this person was doing was lining up with what we wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Like the story that our dice were telling and the story that our characters were telling, it was all doing the thing, right? So it was really good. And I think it took like a good 1.5 years to almost 2 years of a working relationship before that luck ran out.
Yeah.
And it started, people started to recognize that it was really just this person's way or the highway.
Yeah.
Rather than it being about like a collaborative situation.
Right.
And I think when you come at a situation like that, where you already have a story in mind and you are precious about that story, you not only stifle your players, but you also stifle yourself. Like there's so much more that you could like allow this to blossom and breathe and grow. And I think when GMs kind of focus too heavily on that, things can really go awry. Like that's a big part of why I've been interested in playing GMless games. They feel a little chaotic in theory to me. I've only played like 2 or 3 of them so far, but they intrigue me because I'm like, well, if all of us are deciding what's okay, then it's more of a conversation, which changes the concept of the game completely for me.
I am very curious about them. I'm also like very afraid because I have played with some, Y'all, I am very guilty of being a chaos gremlin, but I have played with some even more chaosy chaos gremlins than me, and I'm like, okay, but we still need to be able to tell a story at the end of the day, and sometimes you do need a GM to go, no, you don't get to do that. Or like,
Yes.
okay, yes, you get to seduce the dragon, but this dragon doesn't have a human form. Good luck with that. Right? But
Yeah.
like there are definitely times when you are there to tell a story, especially in like minis. Like Godplane was very much on rails,
Yeah.
but y'all knew that coming in, you know. And I did
Absolutely.
everything I could to adapt your characters into the story. So that's not a bad thing, but a home game is generally not that unless you tell someone. There's a great what's the meme about? Hey, I've got this really cool D&D story and I really want to tell it, except my players like aren't doing it right. Is there a thing that you could do where you like run a D&D game but like without people? And it's like edit. I have been informed that's writing a novel. Like there are some people who need to go write a novel. And like
Yeah.
no tea, no shade, right? But
I mean, or at least present that to your players ahead of time.
oh,
I
yeah.
feel like if someone came to me and was like, this is the story that I'm telling, this is where we're ending up. There's no room for any kind of change here. There's no room for error here. We have to hit these story beats because that's the story I'm telling. I can then have the freedom to say, yeah, okay, that's not really for me. That doesn't work for me. I don't really agree with your story. If you have no, wiggle room, I'd rather not find someone else. Or it gives me the opportunity to go, fuck yeah, I would love to do that. Hey, how do you feel about X, Y, and Z for my character, right? Like, I'm okay with doing that if you tell me what you have on your mind, right? Like, right now, I am in like making a game that is based in like a 90s fantasy world, I mean, sorry, 80s fantasy world that will be announced at some point. And like, I have very specific things that I want to cover and very specific acts that each character is going to go through. A lot of that was based on what my players said they wanted to do, right? Like I was like, here's the skeleton. What would you want to do if you were in this situation? And then they were like, this is what I'd want to do, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Then you work together like you would with any game. But for me, I was like, well, I know that someone wanted a prophecy. Cool. I want a prophecy too. So now it's going to be X, Y, and Z. Hey, player, are you cool with me making up the prophecy so that I can tell that part of the story for myself? Yes. Thank you. Right? Like it does not have to be sneaky, right? It doesn't have to be like rocket science.
Well,
just involving your players and telling the story, to me, that's like such a no-brainer. Isn't that what you're doing?
And a good GM also knows how to navigate those things without making players feel completely railroaded. Like outside of one person in the first episode, like no one has said like I did not feel like I had control in Godplane. In fact, I had one person say like I didn't feel like that was a horror enough game because I had more agency than I thought I would, right? That's entirely on rails. I mean, yeah, there are things you get to make choices on and those choices impact your characters, but like I have a pretty good idea everyone's going to end up at the house eventually. You know? And then look at, and this is not me comparing my GMing to him. This is my attempts versus a masterclass, which is look at Brennan Lee Mulligan on Dimension 20. They have all of those battle sets, all those combat scenes, everything pre-built, and he has to get the characters to each of those sets for this combat within a limited number of episodes.
Yeah.
And it's not forced, you know? Like, just gets it there. And it's really cool. Like, train yourself as a GM to be creative, to roll with what the characters want to get them where they need to be, or to adjust your story, because I've 100% gone, okay, we're throwing out that script. We're
cut this whole section out. That happened to me just this past summer. I was asked to GM on Gen Con TV, but in studio, right, from Gen Con. And I'd never done, obviously I've done live games because I GM online, but I've never done like an in-studio game before, let alone GM'd an in-studio game. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. It's probably gonna be terrible. Like, I'm not really looking forward to this. Like, I'm really excited, but also huge margin of error here, right? Could totally fuck this up. So I get to my table and I'm like really nervous. Only one of my players had ever played Savage Worlds before, and that's who I was running the game on behalf of, right? The publisher had asked me. So I'm there at this table, and I had spent so much time writing out an encounter. I wrote out the first encounter that was going to be the opening scene. I only had 2 hours. It was like a weird time slot too. And I was like, I have to have as much story as possible. I spent hours writing about this antique shop that these kids were going to visit before going to the carnival to confront this evil clown, right? There were items that they were going to find. There was like a treasure trove in there. There was a little old man that was going to give them a little piece of information. Like I mean, I went hard. We get to the end of the first scene. One of the players is like, we should just go confront the clown right now. They're like, yeah, we're going to the theme park. I'm like,
my baby, my precious.
Good. You should go to the theme park, where I have not finished writing any of that because I worked so hard on the other thing, and I figured you'd get to the end and then it would just be a fight and it would be over. But now you're going to explore this whole area, and I've got like 35 minutes to kill before we really have to do any kind of combat. So good. No parachute.
Perfect.
No parachute.
Yep.
Like you cannot be precious about your shit as a GM. Like you just cannot be precious.
But also, the best thing you can do is run games for those kinds of people early on in your GMing career, because some of you know the stories of Cato. Yes, we have. I am a better GM for my writings because I have run games for Cato, and Cato limit tests. He's not there to break it, right? He wants to tell the story, but he will limit test. And so when I was writing out this one adventure, I'm like, I have a hedge maze. Cato would go in the hedge maze. I have to create the hedge maze. I have to be prepared for someone to go into that hedge maze. And that actually, by taking the time to make the thing, I went, oh, I can have another escape path for them out here, right? It gave me a cool thing to throw in. So if anyone did do that, it's like, oh, now you have another escape route, which it's a heist, so escape routes are really important.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, play with the chaos gremlins because they will make you better. And yeah, you can't, the more you force people to go where they don't want to, come up with things that you figure out what they need and then have multiple ways to put that in.
Yeah. I think too, like a lot of people think that improv classes, right? Or studying improv, brushing up on your improv. A lot of people, I think, feel like that's specifically for players, right? To think in the headspace of their character, to be able to carry their character, right? It's not just for players. If you are a GM trying to master the art of improv or just like practice the art of improv, like that's part of your craft as a DM, right? Because every time your player comes up with whatever crazy thing that they want to do, right? Whatever bizarre weirdo thing that they've conjured up, you have to improv that, right? You probably haven't thought of it unless, maybe like I'm pretty good at telegraphing what Jason might do because they're my nesting partner and I know what kind of dumb shit he's going to do in a game. So usually I can prepare for that, but somebody who's new, you don't always know, right? You don't always know what your players are going to do. And I think that practicing improv is something that is should be something that I think more people should really consider as part of the job. It's not just being good at telling stories. It's also being good at incorporating new information on the fly so that you can continue telling your story and not feel beholden to that original thing.
Your characters do like to eat, Jason.
They do. They also like to be from Boston, no matter where they're actually from. Waterdeep, Boston.
Well, Arkham, and also, one of the funniest bits in the D&D movie was the Aarakocra named Jornathan.
Yes,
because it's clearly the DM panic is so well telegraphed there, right? Because and part of what it was one of the best things that I heard. What a deep. It was one of the best bits of advice that was given to me it was weird for me to go to an improv class. I was hated because everyone thought I had done a bunch of improv and I was slumming it in 101, right? But it was my first improv class ever. And I was doing a bunch of stuff, I was learning the technical terms for and the reasons for stuff I was doing innately. And it was one of those things where I'm like, this is very easy for me and it's very difficult for people around me. And that feels weird and bad. I want to help them, but I really can't. It's not my place to help them, right? It's my place to keep things going. And if you try to help, you're a jerk, right? Let's be honest. Um, and the professor, the teacher, instructor, whatever, leader, looked at someone and said, like, quit trying to make the right choice. Make the choice and then make it the right choice. And that is the best GM advice ever. Make the choice. And then, unless you have a really problematic player, if you say, this is the thing, and we do it, and you do it, and then 3 sessions later, it's terrible, your game is broken, this thing is overpowered, you can, unless you have a really terrible character, be like, I really need to change this, because most players are going to be like, yeah, fair, get it, no problem, right? But yeah, and again, as a player, there was, which one was it? It was a Court of Fey and Flowers, Abria's game on Dimension 20, where one of the players was like, she's like, here's a key. Like, she gave someone a gift. She's like, this is for you. And then in one of the talkbacks after, so then several sessions go by, and then she's like, you need to get rid of that. That's cursed. It's going to make all your hair fall out.
Oh, God.
And in the talkback, she's like, I actually had no idea what that was going to do when I gave it to them. But I knew I wanted her to give something, and then how this was going to shake out was going to determine what that item would do. And I'm like, I wish more players would be confident enough to do that. Like, if it's a game-altering thing, run it by your GM, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Don't be afraid to, hey, I did this thing. And then after, hey, GM, so I did this thing. Is it cool if it's this? Do that. It's so much more interesting than going, GM, can I have an idea. Will you allow, like, do it. And then if it doesn't work out, most GMs will work with you. As long as you're not strong arming it. We know if you're strong arming it. We know if you're like, no, my character isn't level 3, they're level 5 because it's in their backstory.
Yeah, no, that is a conversation you must needs have with your GM.
I quite literally saw that as D&D advice. You can just write what level your character is in the backstory. The GM can't stop you.
No, dude. Ugh. I mean, yeah, if you want your DM to just like feel like you're the problem player, sure, go ahead, do that. Like, you're talking about someone who is donating copious amounts of their time to create this environment for you to play in every other week or whenever you meet up. Like, show some respect. You're not paying for any of the stuff, any of the materials that they're using, probably. If it's at their house, you're not paying for snacks. Like, be respectful, man. I feel like more people, this is my David rant. I feel like more people need to give more fucks about their GM and show some goddamn appreciation. Like, I remember it was a few Christmases ago. I think it was during right before the pandemic, 2019. We had switched from playing, it was a home game, an IRL game actually. And we had switched from playing in a conference room at the advertising agency where I worked to going to the DM's house, right? And playing there. He has a wife, they don't have children, but they have dogs, right? Very sweet couple. And they hosted us. They always had snacks. They always had drinks there for us. We could get food delivered to their house, right? We parked in their driveway, all of that stuff, right? All of that has wear and tear, right? All of that, someone accidentally rolled over one of their sprinklers on the way out one night after having a couple of beers, right? Like, that has added expenses, right? And so I was like, we should do something nice for our GM, right? So I suggested getting him a gift card for Christmas, like a birthday Christmas combo, because his birthday is like 2 weeks after Christmas. I didn't get like pushback, but people like took their sweet ass time getting back to me and then tried to send me half of what I had asked for, which I asked for like $30, right? I wanted to get him, there were 5 of us. I was like, if we each put in $30, right? Like, that's a sizable amount of money.
Yeah.
We can get him like a nice set of dice and $100 gift card for him and his wife, because she puts up with us in her fucking house, right? And we're in there for like 4 hours being super loud and noisy and spilling things and making a mess, right? Using her bathroom. Like,
just gotta clean the house before you come. Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. She's stressed out the whole time. She gotta clean it again the next day. Like, be considerate, right? Yeah. And I feel like so many people really take for granted what goes into GMing. And like, the following year after this, I was the GM, because my GM at the time had gotten onto the team for Savage Pathfinder. So he was like, between work and this freelance project, I have no time to prep any game. Do you want to DM? And I was like, I guess. So that was when I ran my very first game. My campaign lasted for about 2 years. And like, I have to tell you, that was one of the most brutal experiences I've ever had. Like, it was awesome, and it made me feel so good because I really like I could tell that I was making a difference, especially during a very hard time
Yeah.
in people's lives.
Yeah.
But like week to week, especially once lockdown was lifted and people started to kind of go back into like the world again, um, it just felt increasingly pointless.
Mhm.
Like, 2 of my players were always locked in, always there, right? My DM and my nesting partner. Like, they were always into it. They would show up excited every time. My other players, it was very much week to week, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd be happy, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they'd show up, sometimes they'd cancel, like, 5 minutes after they said they were gonna be there, and we've been waiting for an hour, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot that DMs and GMs put up with that I think players kind of don't acknowledge sometimes. And I feel like just like we as a people, as American people are supposed to tip our postman, right? Our post person. I feel like the same is true for your DM, dude. Show your DM that you give a fuck about how many fucks that your DM has to give. Like they're making
Mhm.
a whole world, they got lore they're writing, they're dreaming about this game, eat, sleeping and breathing it.
Yep.
Like do something
Yep.
nice for them. Like please.
Yeah.
I'm so
And
tired
like
of people just kind of gliding
I
past
have never
that.
I've never experienced this because this whole group is in the UK. I'm the only American. They put up with me very well. I give them shit for starting wars for spices they don't even use. So, that was great. And yes, Rex says that was very thoughtful of you, Candace, and it was. And
Oh,
Jason
thanks.
says that table and game was incredible. The story was so visual and the characters were rich as hell. And it's
Oh,
Candace,
thanks.
so I have no doubt that that has to be true.
Thanks.
Uh,
It was pretty good. I'm proud of it.
my GM for the Modifius game is like, oh, when I have people over to my house, I serve them, like, I make tea for everyone, which of course
Mhm.
means dinner. He makes a full ass dinner
Yeah.
for everyone every time he runs a game. And I'm like, sir,
It's part
that
of
is.
the experience.
Okay, Ben, if you are watching this, no, you're not. Turn it off right now. I know you follow these rules. Turn it off right now. We decided we're doing a thing for our GM. This is our appreciation.
Mhm.
We found an incredible artist. We decided we're going to do a calendar for him of a couple of his NPCs and then all the
Oh,
major player characters.
oh my gosh.
Um, it is a horror game. There are multiple people who are. One guy has vines growing out of him that he can't control. One
Hell
woman,
yeah.
half her head is metal because she got shot with a shotgun and it just grew back metal. Like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're doing a pinup calendar.
Yes. Subscribe.
It's gonna be
Notifications.
bananas. It's gonna be bananas. I'm
That
so
sounds amazing.
excited. I'm so excited. It is ridiculous, and we're all just like,
Yeah, I love that. That's truly thoughtful. This is what I'm
So we're
saying.
gonna-
That's a truly thoughtful gift.
we are gonna surprise him with that. We're gonna hopefully get little prints of each individual character for everyone, and then
Yeah.
everyone gets a calendar, and he's gonna be so pissed, and it's gonna be great.
Honestly, that is a tremendous fucking gift. Like I couldn't even imagine. Like that
Yeah,
is so sweet and
He
cute.
has
and
a
thoughtful.
he has a truly, like, the paladin who's like, I'm lawful good, so everything I do is lawful good. That character is an NPC. Really,
no.
Siren? Like,
Oh no.
my poor little innocent being doesn't understand that he's really a bad guy. Like, just does not.
Well, I
Like,
mean, you look up to him, right?
exactly. Well, also this guy,
Stars in the eyes.
this guy's entire job, like his entire driving in life is to kill magic users and hurt his magic users. So
No.
it's like, no, we've made a friendship, right? We're good. We're good.
Oh,
But
Burton.
he is like, this guy has the helmet worn by the god once. Like,
Ugh.
so.
You can't change him, Kay. You can't change him.
Oh, I am hurting, Ben. Because we were going through, like, what can we do for these different characters? Which their poses be, which their. And I'm like, I got him. We're done. We're done here. Butt ass naked, kneeling. Right? The wrong knee is up. The only thing between the viewer and his junk is the helmet. Hey, Lady Luck, perfect time to come in. So he's holding the helmet worn by the god between his junk and the viewer, looking up in prayer. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I'm into that.
Yeah.
Good.
It's,
No mistakes made.
I threw that out, and the immediate reply was, "So sacrilege really is your specialty?"
What's wrong with that?
Absolutely
Everybody's
nothing.
got their something.
Right?
I
Um,
will say though, like if you are listening to this and you're like, but Candace, I'm always the GM and no one ever does anything special for me. I highly suggest you put your ass right into a GMless game.
Better
Because
yet,
that is gonna fix your
get
problem.
get the timestamp of this VOD. Send your
Yes.
players this VOD.
Anonymous.
Players, be kind to your GMs. Like, you know, when I run Godplane, I do gifts for people because I appreciate people dedicating their time on stream, but especially in a home game. If this isn't even streamed, if no one is benefiting off this, extra be kind to your GM because
Yep.
holy cats are they doing stuff.
Yep. Literally out of the kindness of their heart. So think on that.
Rex
And if you
says,
have a
look,
really shitty GM, that's a perfect time to tell them that they're shitty. Get them a gift that will subtly hint that they need to be better.
Rex says, look, a deity can see you. Clothes are for mortals. And look,
That's
I'm not talking about the deity. I'm talking about everyone viewing it. This guy
everyone else.
made the biggest, meanest, holier than thou shithead. And I'm gonna make him naked and sexy.
He's got to look like real reverent, with like little
Oh yeah.
teardrops
Oh
in
yeah.
his eyes.
He's also one of those fucking self-flagellators, so like blood coming
Ooh.
down. Yeah, it's gonna be
Oh
a
my goodness.
lot. Yeah.
This is not the episode where we talk about my King's K, please. Please.
Again, Ben, you cannot watch this. I in that like disaster ship him and my character. I'm like, this would be the worst
obviously.
thing ever. They are narrative foils in every sense, and I'm like, this
He's
is
a big,
problem.
strong man.
It's a big, strong man. He's like a noble whose entire family was killed by magic users. Burton's literally a farm kid from nowhere who was
It can
like
work.
beaten by
It
a
can work.
normal person. Yeah, like
They
it's
could
like,
be in love.
it's gonna be terrible. Like it's
He's
one of
gonna-
those where
he's
he
gonna-
just use.
He's
he'd
gonna
just use
pick him up. Firemen carry him out of there like the bodyguard. Okay, like that's what I see in my mind.
Burton did so, and I can say all this because this is the part that's on stream. Like, Burton was so charming and so persuasive that he not only didn't kill the guy that Burton was protecting, that he was sent out to kill, he released another magic user into Burton's care, which was another player character that we all thought was dead. So
Oh my God.
this person got to come back and play their dead character.
Yeah, this game is mad juicy.
It
I'm into
is.
it.
You would love it.
Keep giving me updates because
I would give anything to get Ben to run a game on stream again because it's so good.
Oh, amazing! I love that.
Yeah, it's spicy.
Oh, speaking of spicy, in between or the between.
Oh yes, the between. Yes.
So we've been a little jazzed about that for over a year. The first time I think I heard about it was early last year when y'all had Jason Cordova on.
Yes, I was good. Like that was one of the things I want to talk about. I'm like, I want to play a Gauntlet game.
Yeah.
I've only played the one.
Trophy.
Yeah, I've only played Trophy Dark.
Mhm.
Which one did I play?
That?
It's
OSR,
interesting.
so I feel like you might like it, but
it's an interesting system. We were supposed to play 4 sessions. We had to cut it down to 3, but it was a very good, like, rewarding thing. You have to make sure you're prepared for Grimdark.
yeah.
There are no happy endings in Trophy Dark. I'm interested because Trophy Gold I know is different. I once again played Burton in that. I love throwing my poor Burton into horror games.
The
Presentation
worst
of the book set is
situations.
exceptional. Yes. Yes. In my defense, like, I thought I didn't know enough about the setting going in. I thought Burton was going to be like the hot shot, pilot. And then it turns out like, oh no, you're state sponsored. And if you weren't, you would literally be hunted. Okay, here we are. But yeah, so I really enjoy, like, it is an interesting system. It's cool how you start with a certain amount of corruption and you can take more to have more abilities. So it's an interesting kind of like gambit.
Okay.
There are definitely, again, I feel like all the Gauntlet games are they are structured enough and freeform enough that you do have to have a really good GM.
Hmm.
You have to have a GM who knows the system, but will also like reward and punish you correctly depending on
Yeah.
the moment. Because it is one of those where like you are going to fail a lot of rolls. And if every failed roll means you're corrupt, you're going to be
Yeah.
done in no point 2 seconds. Right.
Absolutely. Have you played um Carved by Brindlewood?
I've not played Brindlewood yet. I want to.
Okay.
I want to
I've
play
played
Brindlewood.
Brindlewood. I did it one time. It was a one shot. Uh, the GM wasn't bad, but I was like a new person at a table with people that didn't seem to want to make room for me, kind of.
That's rough.
Like they
That's
all,
rough.
you know what I mean? Like when you
Mhm.
go to like a when you're like the only one who hasn't played with a channel before and
Yeah.
everybody knows each other. It
Yeah.
was that vibe kind of.
I get
So
that.
and the GM had kind of put a tall order on as
Mm.
well because Knives Out had come out, and so they had wanted to do like a Knives Out themed like Brindlewood Bay,
Yeah.
which was a really cool idea, but there were just way too many clues, just
Yeah.
like way too many clues.
Yeah.
There was just no way
I
for
know.
anyone to really catch up to it properly.
I don't think it was on stream, but I know Herb ran that at a convention and really enjoyed it. Like,
I've heard really good things. Like I'd love to run it or be at a table with it.
yeah.
So if you want to play that, I at the very minimum, I will run that for you this year at some point. But also when David is feeling better and he is ready to run games again, there's supposed to be a sexy table of me.
Yes.
That's what I want. If we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
talk about wishes for 2025, that's what I want.
Yes, we have been talking about this for over a year,
Yes. It's time to cash in.
right?
I'm ready.
So, yes, I know you are not the only one itching for that.
No. I think another game that I'm excited for, the 80s game that I'm doing,
Mhm.
I wanted to select a system that was going to have low magic rather than like the high magic that you get in D&D. Because I feel like what makes an 80s fantasy movie work is that
Mhm.
it is low magic, right? People
Yeah.
can't just do whatever they want, right? Even in Willow, where like magic is pretty free flowing, like no one really questions magic. There's still not huge magic that everybody and their mom has access to, and there's a price for it if you do use big magic.
Mhm.
So I love that kind of archetype and that kind of mechanic there. And I was looking and looking and looking to see if there was some kind of system that was going to give that to me. And I looked at a bunch of like OSR style games, and they were good. Like Perils and Princesses is a game that looks really interesting that I'd like to either play or run in the new year as well. There are a lot of fantasy games that I'm looking at, like Broken Tales, Household, right? All these really cute fantasy systems
Mhm.
that are exciting. But I settled on something called Good Strong Hands by Nerdburger Games.
Mm.
If you have not heard of Good Strong Hands, the title is taken from The Neverending Story,
Uh-huh.
The Rock
They
Muncher.
look like good, strong, and
That's sweet baby. Um,
there is a very white bread song that I have to send to you because it kind of has those vibes, and I think you appreciate it.
please, yes, I would love that. Um, this system is really interesting so far. The reason that I've been so excited about it, so the stats are just like like they're low stats. It's not like +7 like in D&D or whatever.
Mhm.
The stats are more kind of manageable where you add your stats to your dice roll, right? More
Mhm.
similar to like a PBTA sort of situation.
Mhm.
Um, and basically you are a creature of a world called Reverie, which is supposed to be like Labyrinth, Neverending Story, Legend, right? Like these, kind of strange fantasy realms or whatever that you can kind of make whatever you want. And the playbooks that you have are archetypes or like creature type, basically. So
Mhm.
instead of like a class-based thing, you select what kind of creature you are, what ancestry you have in this world, and then you make your character from there and you build on top of that. So I really love that, like in this game, you can mark shadow, which shows how corrupt you are. Very similar to what you were
Mhm.
saying about trophy, where you take on corruption. This game also has you take on corruption. And what's interesting is that all of the low magic, like the very minor magic, like summoning a small thing, right, or talking to a plant, or starting a fire, right, something like that. All of those are dependent upon what you choose as your talents depending on your ancestry. So if you are like a sylph or something like that, a sylph has like elemental powers, right?
Mhm.
If you are a wildkin, that means that you are an anthropomorphic fox or like animal creature, right? Like Robin Hood, for
Yeah.
example. Um, so each class or each archetype gives you that information, and then you can tailor it based on whatever class that you want to pick that doesn't have any mechanical value.
Mhm.
Um, and if you want to use big magic, if you get into a situation where you're like, I've got to destroy something,
Mhm.
right? There's a giant coming at me, and it's gonna kill this whole city, right? It's gonna wipe the city off the face of Reverie.
Hey,
I'm gonna
Ty,
try
welcome
and
on
get
in.
rid of it, right? That has you mark permanent shadow that you can't
Nice.
undo, right?
Nice.
So there's
Yeah.
like permanent consequences for doing big acts of magic,
Yeah.
which plays into that theory in the 80s of bad guys, right? And like corruption and darkness
Mhm.
and all of that. And I just love it. Like I saw it and I just fell in love with it. So that's a game that I am very excited to play and toy around with
I
because
am yeah.
those
I'm
themes.
excited to learn more about that. So, yeah, we're glad you're here, Ty. Thank you for coming on in.
Hi Ty.
Um, because okay, we try very hard not to throw shade here. We are not a
Hmm.
throw shade, but you and I played a game that frustrated both of us for kind of the
Yeah.
same reason, which was Urban Shadows.
Uh-huh.
Because every act of magic required corruption, and you could still fail, and it was like there was
And
no
still take the
way.
corruption
Yeah, you failed, you still took the
just for
corruption,
trying.
and there was no way to like undo. You couldn't heal from it,
Hmm.
and it was just like,
I think there's a way you heal, but it's like you heal like a quarter of the track at a time instead of like a full dot or something like that. Like it was like a stupid slow like
yeah,
it was I really struggled. That's just, I really tried and I
yeah,
struggled hard, but that's just
yeah,
I
and
wanted to
like
love
I
it.
could also, I think a little bit of it was not pitched to us. Like once we were in the session, it
Hmm.
was like, oh no, the fun stuff happens once you start down the corruption spiral. And it's like, we needed to know that because I brought in a cinnamon bun,
Yep.
a chaotic cinnamon bun, but a cinnamon bun. And I
Yep.
don't want them to immediately be corrupt, right? Like
Yeah,
I want to be able to play this longer, especially as it wasn't a one shot, right? It was supposed to be a campaign. It was like,
absolutely.
okay,
Well, I
I,
mean that like goes back to our mini conversation before in the green room about journaling.
yeah,
Like the journaling element to that game was unexpected, and I feel that it should have not been mandatory. I think that forcing your players to read copious amounts of things or write copious amounts of things, especially because at the time when we played that one shot or when we played that single session that was supposed to be the first of many,
yeah,
I was working as a copywriter and I would write all day. And that's the last thing I want to do when I get
yeah.
off. I don't want to write, right? Like, please don't make me blue book. Like, I don't want to do that. Um, and I was so stressed about it. I was like, can I do a video diary? Can I like do an audio? Like, what other choices are there? And I agree. I feel like someone should have said, this is Vampire the Masquerade, but
Yeah,
not Vampire the Masquerade. And then I would have been
right.
like, tonally, okay. Because in my mind, I was like, all right, so it's a horror game, but it's powered by the apocalypse. So it's like Monster Hearts, maybe? I don't
Yeah, well, I kind of thought like, okay, yeah, there's a war between the the real world and then the monstrous fictional world, and you have to stay
know.
blending in. So cool, we're gonna play this game, and it was like, no, you're supposed to spiral. Okay, like
Oh.
you know me, I'm obsessed with things. The game that I've talked too much about that's now a home game. The GM has been running games in this setting in this world for like 17 years. And so one of the players currently in the game had a character in a previous game that we figured out the timelines aligned, and we made it so his previous character knows my character, like trained Burton in how to shoot. And so we're actually like writing the letters back and forth that they wrote over the years, but that wasn't mandatory. And we both like opted into it, right? Like
Mhm.
that's one of the other, I really want to play Good Society.
Oh, yeah,
I
same.
really want to play that.
Same, yeah.
Which again, I thought of that because it has a like the letter writing component is a
Mhm.
big part of it.
See, that I can get my head around because it's to someone else and it's not journaling.
Yeah, I have.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in the agreement we were kind of talking about what do we want to cover, and one of the things I'm going to try this year, and it's not like we've been going over wish lists. For me, this is I'm going to try because I do not understand journaling TTRPGs. I don't. Um, I also don't understand writing diaries or journaling or any of that. I don't. It's never clicked with me. But I went out and purchased Grandpa's Farm, which is a journaling TTRPG inspired by Stardew Valley. And if that won't grab me, nothing will. So I'm going to try. An effort is going to be made. That is one of the things I'm going to do in 2025.
All right, I will also join you on this journey. The two solo TTRPGs that I most want to play in 2025 are, well, three technically. One is My Mother's Kitchen, by Fleet Detrick. That is all about you being a ghost of your family and using a tarot deck to uncover like lost recipes and talk about like the different like generations of your family and the things that have happened in your family. And like you can make it semi-autobiographical or you can make it completely fantastical, which I think is really cool. I'm really interested in the one that you're talking about, honestly. It's also really cool. But Koriko, A Magical Year. That one is like a Kiki's Delivery Service style game by Mousehole Press. And then Tangled Blessings. I actually wrote for Tangled Blessings.
Oh,
the
yeah.
expansion, Lost Electives. And so I really want to try doing a run through of Tangled Blessings. There are two other solo TTRPGs. Like one is just a one-pager called Exclusion Zone Botanist, where you are a botanist in an exclusion zone where like you can't last for too long. It's a hex-based solo TTRPG rather than a journaling. And they ask you to catalog leaves that you find and like plant life that you find in this like hex world that you go into.
I was going to say, do we have to find this IRL because I am in the city?
Yeah, no, it's cool because basically you roll dice and then there's a chart, right? And you combine, the dice that you roll into what the image of the leaf looks like or what the petal looks like, right? So it'll be like spiky, pink, round tips, right? So then you make like a spiky rounded tip looking thing. So it's more like drawing solo instead of journaling.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then there's one called Lichdom. Lichdom is a solo TTRPG that is journaling. This is probably the one. This and Tangled Blessings are the two that I can most wrap my head around as far as writing things down and actually journaling. Because My Mother's Kitchen feels a little bit more free-flowing than these other ones feel. But Lichdom, you play as a wizard who is turning into a lich. Like
nice.
Slowly.
Yeah.
And like it's all about like finding like the ingredients that you need and the tools that you need. And today I killed this person, and like it's very dark.
Yeah.
And I feel like both of those would be good. You might not be into Tangled Blessings because it's like school. And I know school-based TTRPGs are hit or miss for you.
No, school-based anything is not really my.
Yeah. But Lichdom, though, I feel like you could be.
That sounds
a cool
real
lich.
interesting. Yeah.
You could be a cool lich.
DC says I do want to stream some solo TTRPGs.
Honestly, same DC.
We were just discussing that in the in the thing. Hey, House of Dreams, welcome on in. Apologies.
Oh, Hector, hey.
Some of our alerts and things are not working well today because it's the first stream of the year. But yes, chat, if you have any systems or solo TTRPGs or anything like that you're excited to play this year, like give them a shout out. We might need to keep a running list. But yeah, I want to play some more of the Gauntlet games.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, I really want to play a good Starfinder 2E. I'm actually thinking now, the thing that scares me about, again, GMless systems is I know too many Chaos Gremlins, right? That's a problem. But I'm kind of like, Adam is like, I can't GM for a while. I need to decompress, but I'm going to want to play. And I'm like, ooh, if we can get like maybe an Adam, a Candace, we can get like some solid storytellers and just smush us all together.
Yeah.
That could be a fun GM-less thing because like I trust your instincts. I need to be able to work with someone whose instincts I trust and who will also be able to read my story beats. Because there's
Yes.
nothing worse than playing with someone who cannot pick up what you're putting down.
Absolutely. I think what's nice is that there are so many different kinds of GMless. So I've played unincorporated, which is a you're returning to a small town, or maybe you've never left from your small town, but you grew
Mhm.
up there, you had high school there, you knew everybody was in your business. There's like a continuum chart where you can
Ugh.
decide how much of whatever it is you are. So it's like jock or goth, and then like bougie or poor or something like
Mhm.
that. Like I can't remember, but it's like a little chart thing,
Mhm.
a graph. And there are like questions about your character and why you are back home, or
Mhm.
about what happened to you and why you never left.
Mhm.
It was really fun. We did like it was for Black History Month actually. We played a family that was doing a cookout, like a reunion.
Mhm.
And it was messy, messy, messy. So if you like
Leave
messy
it.
drama,
Yeah, yeah.
unincorporated is for you. But if you want something that's gonna be a little bit less like first person, because
Mhm.
unincorporated you're playing characters, right? And you're playing
Mhm.
NPCs and other people's story as well.
Mhm.
Um, if you want something that's a little bit more free flowing, I would highly recommend something. I've actually played this game now twice with two different groups. It is called Under the Autumn Strangely by Graham Gentz.
Mhm.
And it is the vibes are kind of like Over the Garden Wall,
Mhm.
sort of. It's like an isekai story where there are three archetypes. The first is the traveler, which
Mhm.
is like a piece, the closest thing that you have to a PC, right? Your character is in this world called the Never Was. They wind up there. You walk through the forest, and suddenly the forest is Never Was, and you don't know what's going on, right?
Mhm.
Then you have the Arcadian, which is the closest thing you kind of get to a GM. The Arcadian's job is to set the tone and to like give you the vibes. So in the very first session that you have, it's the Arcadians chapter. They will describe a song, right? That it should be playing in the back of your mind as the scene is evoked, and then that person describes where you are, right? So if you are in the middle of a city, and for some reason at the end of Houston Street in New York, there is a dense forest that's calling your name, and you can hear the whispers coming
Mm.
from it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the Arcadian like sets up the vibes of like a pastoral yet unsettling image.
Yeah.
And then the third archetype is a terror. And your job is to do exactly that. Just be awful. Yes. So that's your job, obviously. Um, so essentially, it's storytelling. You have something called change that you can spend. And change essentially means that you can contradict. So the traveler can contradict the Arcadian, right?
Mhm.
So if the Arcadian's like, oh man, it's really muddy outside, the traveler can say, well, I wore boots. No, but I wore boots today. So even if it is muddy outside, I'm fine, right? The Arcadian can contradict the terror, and then the terror can contradict the traveler, which means if you're
Amazing.
like, I'm perfectly safe, the terror can go, actually,
Right.
oh honey,
No, you're not.
you are not safe.
Amazing.
So it feels really good because it feels like the onus of telling the story is equally on everyone.
Mhm.
And even if you have someone who's the chaos gremlin, the whole point is discovery. So go fucking batshit, man. Get as weird as you want, right? Like
Yeah.
let the chaos gremlin loose. Like that's the perfect game for a chaos gremlin.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
highly recommend. So good.
DC says they're looking forward to running Paragons by Broken Door Entertainment.
Mm.
Um, Positive Dreams says, I want to try lots of OSR stuff and crunchier games
Yeah.
as a facilitator GM. I have a friend who's trying desperately to get me into Warhammer 40K, and I'm like, my dude, minis are not my thing. Like, if I have to do a mini, I'm not going to play the game. Just
Warhammer
straight up
proper
not.
or the TTRPG?
Well, no, Warhammer proper. Like,
Okay. Okay.
like I'm sure he would be happy if I would at least do the TTRPG, but he's doing all the minis. I'm
That's
like,
a lot of stuff.
it's a lot of stuff. I don't have space for it. No.
No, and the
Um,
paints too.
yeah, like I still
Like,
have when I finally go to England to see my group, I'm gonna get my little soul painted
mm,
because this is the only mini I own. It
so
was a gift,
sweet.
and I love
Yeah,
it, but I would never have gotten
it's
it
too
myself.
much. I
Uh,
can't.
Ty says he's got Mothership coming up. We do love a
Oh
Mothership here,
God, we
and
love
he'll be
Mothership.
running Nuravarden at GaryCon.
Yay, no
Hostage
pardon.
Dream says Girl by Moonlight.
Mhm.
My game Fairy Session Thirsty Sword Lesbians, Kids on Bikes 2E, and Wonder Home. Busy one. Alaria, thank you so much for the subscription. Welcome in. I'm sorry all of our alerts aren't working. It's a day. So yes, hello, welcome. Almost a year. You are incredible. Thank you so much. DC says wants to play Alice is Missing with the expansion. I know.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone wants to play Alice is Missing. Kids on Bikes again.
If you are going to play Alice is Missing, you guys should try out the new interface. You can play the actual physical copy too. That's also good. But I did the playtest for the interface that they have, and it will wreck you. There's music in there and art. It's absolutely stunning, and it will hurt your feelings.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yes, we are kind of reaching the end of our time here. Do we have any final thoughts? Any final TTRPG hopes and or wishes for 2025? Any plans on what we're playing? What's it? So Hostel Dreams said they ran a one-shot of Kids and Bikes in their hometown of Dorado, Puerto Rico. That's a good time. And Ty says he did the same thing with his hometown of 10 Candles.
Aw.
DC says I ran the original Alice is Missing with the Discord bot, and it was great.
Oh yeah, I heard that was great. They shut the Discord bot down before I could play Alice is Missing, so I've only played the online version. But I've heard that it's a very intimate experience when you're doing it on Discord. The interface is still good, but I feel like the Alice is Missing bot was probably more intimate than this one feels.
I will believe it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's it for me. Like, I have honestly just too many TTRPGs in my house. If any of you decide you want to be an Ennies judge or apply to be an Ennies judge this year, please holla at me and ask me for tips or advice. I would love to help because I can not be an Ennies judge because I work with too many people. Apparently, I am not welcome back because of conflicts of interest. But I would love to help you be an Ennies judge, especially if you sold me your stuff after you were done. But yeah, if you want to be an Ennies judge, it's a really fantastic experience. It is a lot of work, but it is worthwhile work. And you will know so much more about TTRPGs than you ever thought possible from just one experience of being a judge. So get at me if that is something that you are interested in. Applications, I believe, are due in May, June, somewhere in there.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yes, go look it up. You should do the thing. I'm just looking forward to more games because right now I have one. And then the one
change.
Unannounced. But yes, we're like, I'm like, I need all of the things, right?
Technically, there's
more.
2 unannounced games that you and I are in.
That's true. That is true.
Mhm.
I just recently learned about the second, and I'm so excited.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm like, I'm hoping I get lots of one-shots, but I'm like, I also need something long-term. Because one-shots and mini campaigns are great, but I'm like, I need that juicy character arc.
I feel that. I feel that so much.
But yes.
And hopefully more Ghosts of Greymon.
Oh, yes. Yes. Sword and Serpentine.
Yeah. Oh my God. Killing for that. Killing for that. If y'all have not listened to the Candlestick Crimes, wherever you catch your pods, you should change that. It's hilarious. God help those 4.
That's true. Okay, correction. I do
God
have a
help
Brandon. I do still get to play Brandon. I forgot because it's that game. It is great. We prioritize people's health, mental health, which means it runs once a month at most. So I forget sometimes that it isn't ongoing, but it's very fun. And my dragon finally hatched. So I can finally tell people I'm a Drake Warden.
Yeah. Oh, so cute. What color is your dragon?
So the dragon is green because he matches Brandon.
He matches Brandon, right?
But so the thing with Drake Warden Rangers is every time you summon your dragon, you can pick what element they are. So they kind of have like this oil slick sheen to the base of their scales because every time they come out, there's a shimmer of what element they are that time.
Oh, that's very cute.
I had a lot of fun because the
Oh my
GM
God.
the GM let me find like this crystalline egg, and I'm like, this is perfect. And every time Brandon would touch it, it would turn a little bit more green. And just follow his fingers and turn green.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
That was a treat. Yes. That was also Drake Warden Rangers. It's supposed to be the dragon only exists when you summon it. And then after the summons, it just goes away. And I'm like, can you
No.
please be a small little house cat and sit on my shoulders
Yes.
and be an asshole? I just want to be bullied by a dragon. Is that
Yes,
so
little
much to
baby.
ask? Yes.
Perfect character. No notes, Kay.
Haas
As
says,
always.
I'm busy listening to you on City of the Black Rose.
Oh, thank you. I hope you like it.
But all right, speaking of, Candace, where can we find you? I know that's
can
a
find
big
me-
ask.
Well, I'm in a lot of places. You can find me at the Candace Marie on Blue Sky and Twitter, kind of, not really at all. And then you can also find me at Candace the Magnificent pretty much everywhere else. I am going to do my damnedest, y'all, to stream on Mondays and Wednesdays video games. I'm going to try and do it. I'm trying to raise money so I can buy myself some Baldur's Gate 3 and maybe start playing that eventually. I am also available if you would like to hear any of my audio drama stuff or my voice acting stuff. I will be in a video game called Monaco 2, which is the sequel to the smash hit from 2012, Monaco, that will be available on Steam in Q1 or Q2 of this year. You can also hear me on the audio drama Partial Veil if you like cosmic horror and the show Fargo or the movie Fargo. Highly recommend Partial Veil. It's scary. And then you can also hear me in the AP podcast, Bloom and Blight, the upcoming Candlestick Crimes, Frequencies, as well as City of the Black Rose, Herald of Shadows with 3 Black Athens. Thank you for having me.
You have just so little going on. Like, I don't know how you manage to fill your days.
honestly, it has to stop though. This January, it's like looking a little threadbare, and like I'm struggling to be upset about it. So.
And yes, I am Kay. You can find me here every Tuesday, except the 21st, because I don't have a co-host. So I'm taking the week off. Usually you can find me here with David. For those of you who don't know, he is currently in the hospital, and we are hoping he'll be back and fighting fit soon, but it's been a bit. More news on that will come later, but we are giving updates in the Discord if you would like those. You can find me every other Friday over on Entropy Emporium in the Weird Wilds War, and season 4 of the Emergency Power Podcast is about to come out. It is a very chaotic, surprisingly queer story of found family in outer space where I play the worst person ever. You can start with season 3 easily. There's good recaps, good characters, and hop in when season 4 comes out. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for all of the games you have suggested. I've got more TTRPGs to look up, and I'm very excited. Candace, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come on here and do this with me. You are so appreciated, and you are awesome.
I love you.
I love you. All right, everyone. As always, be kind to yourself. Be excellent to others. We are going to go find someone to raid, and we will see you soon. Thank you again. Mwah.
Bye.
I know where my end button is.